Chapter 10, The Rogue Bludger. Since the disastrous episode with the pixies, Professor Lockhart had not brought any live creatures to class. Instead, he read passages from his books to them, and sometimes he reenacted some of the more dramatic bits. He usually picked Harry to help him with the reconstructions. So far, Harry had been forced to play a simple Transylvania villager whom Lockhart had cured from the babbling curse, a yeti with a head cold, a vampire who had been unable to eat anything except lettuce since Lockhart had dealt with him. Harry was hauled in front of the class during that very next Defense Against the Arts lesson, this time acting a werewolf. If he had had a very good reason for keeping Lockhart in a good mood, it would have refused to do it. Nice loud howl, Harry! Exactly. And then, if you believe it, I pounced on him like this. Slammed him to the floor, thus, with one hand. I managed to hold him down with my other, and I put my wand to his throat, and I screwed up my remaining strength and performed an immensely complex homorphous charm and let out a piteous moan. Go on, Harry. Go on. Higher than that. Good. The fur vanished, the fangs shrank, and he turned back into the man, simple yet effective. And another village will remember me forever for being their hero and deliver them from the monthly terror of a werewolf attack. The bell rang and Lockhart got up to his feet. Homework! Composed a poem about my defeat of the Wagga Wagga werewolf, signed copies of Magical Me to the author of the best one. The class began to leave. Harry turned to the back of the room where Ron and Hermione were waiting. Ready? Harry muttered. Wait till everyone's gone, said Hermione nervously. All right. She approached Lockhart's desk, and a piece of paper clutched tightly in her hand. Harry and Ron right behind her. Professor Lockhart, Hermione stammered. I wanted to get this book out of the library just for background reading, she said on a piece of paper, her hand shaking slightly. But the thing is, it's in the restricted section of the library, so I need a teacher to sign for it. I'm sure it would help if you understand that you say that gadding ghouls about slow acting venoms. Ah, gadding with ghouls, said Lockhart, taking the note from Hermione and smiling widely at her. Possibly my very favorite book. You enjoyed it? Oh, yes, said Hermione eagerly. So clever! The way you trapped the last one with a tea strainer. Well, I'm sure no one will mind giving the best student of the year a little extra help, said Lockhart warmly, and he pulled out an enormous peacock quill. Yes, nice, isn't it? He said, misreading the revolted look on Ron's face. I usually save it for book signings. He scowled an enormous loopy signature on the note and handed it back to Hermione. So, Harry, said Lockhart, while Hermione folded the note in fumbling fingers and slapped it into her bag. Tomorrow's the first Quidditch match of the season, I believe. Gryffindor against Slytherin, is it not? I hear you're a useful player. I was a seeker, too. I was asked to try out for the national squad, but preferred to dedicate my life to eradication of dark forces. Still, if you ever feel you need a little private training, don't hesitate to ask. Always happy to pass on my expertise to the less able players. Harry made an indistinct noise in his throat and then hurried out after Ron and Hermione. I don't believe it, he said. Three of them examined the signature of the note. He didn't even look at the book we wanted. That's because he's a brainless git, said Ron. But who cares? We've got what we needed. He is not a brainless git, said Hermione, as they half ran towards the library. Just because he said you were the best student of the year, They dropped their voices as they entered the muffled stillness of the library. Madam Pince, the librarian, was a thin, irritable woman who looked like an underfed vulture. Moste portante potions, she repeated suspiciously, trying to take the note from Hermione, but Hermione wouldn't let go. I was wondering if I could keep it, she said breathlessly. Oh, come on, said Ron, wrenching it from her grasp, shouting to Madam Pince. We'll get you another autograph of Lockhart's. He'll sign anything if it stands still long enough. Madam Pince held the note up to the light, as though determined to detect a forgery, but it passed the test, so she stalked away between the lofty shelves, returning several minutes later carrying a large and mouldy-looking book. Hermione put it carefully under her bag and left, trying not to walk too quickly and look too guilty. 5 minutes later, they were barricaded in the Moaning Myrtle's out-of-order bathroom again. Hermione had overheard Ron's objections by pointing out that there was the last place anyone in the right mind would go, so they guaranteed some privacy. Moaning Myrtle was crying noisily in her stall, but they were ignoring her, and she them. Hermione opened the most important potions carefully, and the three of them bent over the damp, spotted pages. It was clear from the glance why it belonged in the restricted section. Some of the potions had effects almost too gruesome to think about, and there were some very unpleasant illustrations, which included a man who seemed to have been turned inside out, with sprouting several extra pairs of arms out of his head. Ah, here it is, Hermione said excitedly. She found the page headed the Polyjuice Potion. It was decorated with drawings of people halfway through transforming into other people. Harry suddenly hoped that the artist imagined the looks of intense pain on their faces. Oh, this is the most complicated potion I've ever seen, said Hermione, as they scanned the recipe. Lacewing flies, leeches, fluxweed, and knotgrass, she murmured, running her fingers down the ingredients. Oh, well, they're easy enough. There's in one student more store cupboard. We can help ourselves. Oh, look, powdered horn of bicorn. Ooh, don't know where we're going to get that. Shredded skin of boomslang. Ooh, that'll be tricky too. And of course, a bit of whoever we want to change into. Excuse me, said Ron sharply. What do you mean? A bit of whoever we are changing into. I am drinking nothing with crab's toenails in it. Hermione continued as though she hadn't heard him. We don't have to worry about that yet, though, because we add those bits last. We don't have to. Ron turned speechless, and Harry, who had another worry. Do you realize how much we're going to have to steal, Hermione? Shredded skin of boomslang. That's definitely not in the student's cupboard. What are we going to do? Break into Snape's private stores? I don't know if this is a good idea. Hermione shut the book with a snap. Well, if the two of you are going to chicken out, fine, she said. There will be bright pink patches on her cheeks, and her eyes were brighter than usual. I don't want to break the rules, you know. I think threatening a muggle-born is far worse than brewing up a difficult potion. But if you don't want to find out if it's Malfoy, I'll go straight to Madam Pince now and hand the book back. Book back in. I never thought I'd see the day when you'd be persuading me to break the rules, said Ron. All right, we'll do it, but not toenails, okay? How long will it take to make anyway? Said Harry, as Hermione, looking happier, opened the book again. Well, since flaxseed has got to be picked in the full moon, and lacewings has got to be stewed for 21 days, I'd say it'd be ready in about a month, if we can get all the ingredients. A month? Said Ron. Malfoy could have attacked half the Muggleborns by the school then. But Hermione's eyes narrowed dangerously again, and she added swiftly, "But it's the best plan we've got. So full steam ahead, I say." However, while Hermione was checking that the coast was clear for them to leave the bathroom, Ron murmured to Harry, "It'll be a lot less hassle if you can just knock Malfoy off the broom somehow." Harry woke up early Sunday morning and lay there for a while thinking about the coming Quidditch match. He was nervous, mainly as he thought of what Wood would say if Gryffindor lost, but also the idea of facing a team mounted on the fastest racing brooms gold could buy. He had never wanted to beat Slytherin so badly. After having an hour lying there with his insides churning, he got up and dressed and down to breakfast early. He found that the rest of the Gryffindor team huddled up at a long, empty table, looking upright and not speaking much. At 7 o'clock, he approached the whole school, started to make its way to the Quidditch stadium. It was a muggy sort of day, with the hint of the thunder in the air. Ron and Hermione came hurrying over to Harry to wish him good luck, and he entered the locker rooms, and the team pulled on their scarlet Gryffindor robes, and they all sat down and listened to Wood's usual pre-match pep talk. "Slytherin will be better brooms than us," he began. "No point denying that, but we've got better people on our brooms. We've trained harder than any of them they have. We've been flying in all weather, too." "True," muttered George Weasley. "I haven't been properly dry since August." "And we're going to make them rue the day they let that little bit of sly Malfoy buy his way onto the team." Chest heaving with emotion, Wood turned to Harry. It'll be down to you, Harry, to show them that a seeker has to have something more than a rich father. Get to the snitch before Malfoy, or die trying, Harry, because we've got to win today. We've got to." "So no pressure, Harry," said Fred, winking at him. As they walked out into the pitched roar, noise greeted them. Mainly cheers, because Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff were anxious to see Slytherin beaten. But Slytherin in the crowd made their boos and hisses heard, too. Madam Hooch, the Quidditch teacher, asked Flint and Wood to shake hands, when they did, giving each other threatening stares, gripping each other's hand harder than was necessary. "On my whistle," said Madam Hooch. "3, 2, 1. With the roar of the crowd spread upward, and 14 players rose into the air. High into the sky, Harry flew higher than any of them, squinting for the snitch. "All right there, Scarhead," yelled Malfoy, shooting underneath him, to show off the speed of his broom. Harry had no time to reply at this moment. A heavy black bulger came pelting towards him. He avoided it so narrowly that he felt the ruffle of his hair as it passed. "Close one, Harry," said George, streaking past him with his club, his hand ready to knock the bludger back towards the Slytherin. Harry saw George give the bludger a powerful whack in the direction of Adrian Percy, but the bludger changed direction midair and shot straight for Harry again. Harry dropped quickly to avoid it. George managed to hit it hard towards Malfoy. Once again, the bludger swerved and boomeranged and shot at Harry's head. Harry put on a burst of speed and zoomed around the other without a pitch. He could hear the bludger whistling by behind him. What was going on? Bludgers never concentrated on one player like this. It was their job to try to unseat as many people as possible. Fred Weasley was waiting for the bludger at the other end, and Harry ducked as Fred swung the bludger with all his might. The bludger was knocked off course. "Gotcha!" Fred yelled happily. But he was wrong. As though it was magically attracted to Harry, the bludger pelted after him again. Once more, Harry was forced to fly off at full speed. It had started to rain. Harry felt heavy drops onto his face, splattering into his glasses. He didn't have a clue where he was going the rest of the game until he heard Lee Jordan, who was commenting, say, "Slytherins lead 60 points to 0." Slytherin's superior brooms were clearly doing their jobs. Meanwhile, the Mad Bludger was doing all it could to knock Harry out of the air. Fred and George were now flying close to him, on either side, so Harry could see nothing except their flailing arms, and had no chance to look for the snitch, let alone catch it. "Someone's tampered with the bludger," Fred grunted, swinging his bat with all his might as it launched a new attack on Harry. "We need a time-out," said George, trying to signal to Wood with the bludger, looking at Harry's nose at the same time. Wood obviously got the message. Madam Hooch whistled, rang out, and Harry and Fred and George dived to the ground, still trying to avoid the Mad Bludger. "What's going on?" said Wood, as the Gryffindor team huddled together, as the Slytherins and crowd jeered. "We're being flattened." "But Fred and George, where were you when the bludger stopped Angelica Storing?" "We were 20 feet above her, stopping the other bludger. The one that's murdering Harry, Oliver," George said angrily. "Someone's fixed it. It won't leave Harry alone. It hasn't gone for anyone else all game. The Slytherins must have done something to it." "But bludgers have been locked in Madam Hooch's office since the last practice, and there's nothing wrong with them now," said Woods anxiously. Madam Hooch was walking towards them. Over her shoulder, Harry could see the Slytherin team jeering and pointing in his direction. "Listen," said Harry, as she came nearer and nearer. "With you two flying around me all the time, I'm not going to catch the snitch if it flies up into my sleeve. So go back at the rest of the team and let me deal with the rogue one now." "Don't be thick," said Fred. "It'll take your head off." Rid was looking from Harry to the Weasleys. "Oliver, this is insane." Alicia Spinnet angrily. "You can't let Harry deal with that thing on his own. Let's ask for an inquiry. If we stop now, we'll have to forfeit the match," said Harry, "and we're not losing to Slytherin just because of a crazy bludger. Come on, Oliver. Tell that to leave me alone." "This is your fault," George said angrily to Wood. "Get the snitch, or die trying." "What a stupid thing to tell him!" Madam Hooch had joined them. "Ready to resume play?" she asked Wood. Wood looked at the determined look on Harry's face. "All right," said Fred and George. "You heard Harry. Leave him alone and let him deal with the bludger on his own." The rain was falling more heavily now. On Madam Hooch's whistle, Harry kicked it hard into the air, and heard the telltale whoosh of the bludger behind him. Higher and higher Harry climbed. He hoped to swoop and spiral and zigzag, and rolled, slightly dizzy. Nevertheless, he kept his eyes wide open. The rain was speckling his glasses, and ran up his nostrils as he hung upside down, avoiding another fierce dive from the bludger. He could hear laughter from the crowd, because he knew he must look very stupid with a rogue bludger was heavy, and he couldn't change direction as quickly as Harry could. He began a kind of roller coaster ride around the edges of the stadium, squinting through the silvery sheets of rain to the Gryffindor goalposts, where Adrian Percy was trying to get past Wood. A whistling in Harry's ear told him that the bludger had just missed him again, and he turned right over and sped the opposite direction. "Training for the ballet, Potter!" yelled Malfoy, as Harry was forced to do a stupid kind of twirl in midair and dodge the bludger, and he fled, the bludger trailing a few feet behind him, and then, glaring back at Malfoy, batted he saw it, the golden snitch. It was lowering inches above Malfoy's left ear, and Malfoy, busy laughing at Harry, hadn't seen it. For an agonizing moment Harry hung in midair, not daring to speed towards Malfoy, in case he looked up and saw the snitch. Wham! He had stayed still a second too long, and the bludger had hit him at last, smashed him in his elbow. Harry felt his arm break, dim and dizzy, and searing pain in his arms. He did a sideways on the rain-drenched broom, and his knees crooked over to his right, arm dangling useless to his side. The bludger came back, pelting back for a second attack, and this time aiming for his face. Harry swerved out of the way, one idea firmly lodged in his brain: get to Malfoy. Through the haze of the rain he had dived for the shimmering, sneering face, followed and saw his eyes widen with fear. Malfoy thought Harry was attacking him. "What the—" he gasped, careening out of Harry's way. Harry took the remaining hand off his broom, made a wild snatch. He felt his fingers close on the cold snitch, but was now only gripping a broom with his legs, and was from the legs, and there a yell from the crowd, bellow from the head, straight from the ground, trying hard not to pass out. With a splattering thud, he hit the mud, rolled off the broom. His arm was hanging by a very strange angle. Riddling with pain, he heard them through the distance, and a good deal of whistling and shouting. He found the snitch clutched in his good hand. "Aha!" he said vaguely. "We've won!" And he fainted.